Hello, everyone. We often talk about strength like it's a thing you either have or you don't. We use words like tough, gritty, and resilient, and we picture people who lift weights, conquer boardrooms, or lead armies. We often imagine strength as something loud, something that commands attention, shouts from the rooftops, or takes up space in a powerful way. We think of leaders on stages, athletes on podiums, or people who never seem to crack under pressure. But real strength, the kind that shapes lives and transforms hearts, is rarely visible. It doesn't always come with medals or recognition. In fact, some of the strongest people you'll ever meet are those quietly carrying burdens no one else can see, showing up every day, even when everything inside them wants to give up. True strength is quiet, it's internal, it's in the moments when you choose to keep going, not because anyone is pushing you, but because something deep within refuses to quit. It's waking up after a sleepless night, facing the day with puffy eyes and a tired heart, and still doing what needs to be done. It's drying your own tears in silence, pushing through pain with no one to lean on and finding a reason to believe in something better, even when the evidence isn't there yet. Think about the strong woman who rebuilds herself alone. She doesn't announce her comeback. She doesn't broadcast her battles. She fights through them in the quiet corners of her life, in between work calls, in the stillness of her home. She doesn't ask for pity. She doesn't always share her pain. She simply gets up again and again while the world keeps moving, unaware of the storm she's weathering. And yet, what she's doing is extraordinary. It takes a different kind of strength to carry emotional weight while still fulfilling responsibilities. To offer love to others when you're running on empty. To smile when your heart feels heavy. That strength is not found in grand gestures. It's found in the small, consistent acts of resilience. The kind that no one claps for, the kind that often goes unseen. What makes this strength so powerful is that it's self-generated. It's not motivated by external rewards or recognition. It comes from a quiet belief that I am more than this moment, and I will not be broken by what's happening to me. It's the kind of strength that isn't performative. It changes who you are at your core. So when we talk about strong women, let's not only celebrate those standing on stages or leading movements, let's also honor the women who are rebuilding behind the scenes, who show up with grace even when they feel broken, who choose healing one hard day at a time. That silent strength, it's not weakness, it's power in its purest form. Because sometimes the strongest thing a woman can do is simply keep going, quietly, relentlessly, unapologetically. That's what real strength looks like. There is a unique kind of courage that emerges when a person decides to rebuild their life alone. It's not the kind that gets headlines or viral videos. It's the quiet, steady, soul-deep bravery that says, I will not stay broken, even when there is no one around to cheer you on. When a woman finds herself in the ruins of what once was, whether it's the end of a relationship, the loss of a dream, or the collapse of her sense of self, and she chooses to start over without help, she taps into a strength that most people will never understand. Rebuilding alone strips you down to the core. There's no distraction, no cushion, no one else to lean on. It's just you, your thoughts, your fears, and your will. And that's where the magic begins, not in spite of the solitude, but because of it. When a woman stands in the middle of her own wreckage and decides to rebuild brick by brick, she isn't just fixing what's broken, she's becoming someone new, someone wiser, stronger, and more aligned with who she was meant to be all along. It's easy to be strong when you have a support system. It's easy to push through when someone is texting you encouragement or holding your hand through the storm. But the true test of strength is when there's no applause, no shoulder to cry on, no one saying, you've got this. It's when you whisper to yourself, keep going, and then take the next step, and the next. This kind of rebuilding is transformative. It requires a level of self-trust that many people never develop. It asks you to believe in a version of yourself that doesn't exist yet, to build her from the ground up without knowing exactly what she'll look like when she's whole again. She is both architect and foundation. She is demolition crew and designer. She tears down the broken parts of herself and replaces them with hard-earned wisdom, with strength formed in silence. Every time she gets up after falling, every time she chooses to heal instead of hide, she is writing a story more powerful than any fairy tale, not because she was saved, but because she saved herself. That doesn't mean she doesn't struggle, That doesn't mean she doesn't cry or doubt or stumble. It means she rises anyway without needing permission, applause, or validation. And when she finally looks back at the road she's walked alone, she doesn't just see the pain. She sees the evidence of her resilience. She sees the foundation she built with her own hands. She sees a woman forged not in ease, but in fire, and still standing. That is the courage of the woman who rebuilds herself alone, quiet, relentless, unbreakable. Pain has a way of demanding our attention. It screams, it lingers, it pulls us inward and tempts us to give up, to stay small, to hide from the world. But there's something even more powerful than pain, and that is purpose. Purpose doesn't always speak loudly. Sometimes it starts as a whisper, just enough to keep you moving. But over time, that whisper becomes a guiding force. For the woman who rebuilds herself alone, it is purpose, not pain, that becomes her compass. There comes a moment after the breakdown, after the loss, after the silence, when she realizes she has a choice. She can let the pain define her, or she can choose to find meaning in the middle of it. That doesn't mean pretending the pain isn't real. It absolutely is. But instead of letting it close her down, she lets it carve her into someone deeper, someone who isn't just surviving, but evolving. And that shift happens the moment she starts asking, what is this pain trying to teach me, rather than, why did this happen to me? Purpose transforms suffering. It gives it direction. It doesn't erase the hard days or the heartbreak, but it gives those experiences a new context. Suddenly, the pain becomes part of the path, not the end of the story. That's why she wakes up and chooses to try again, even when the weight feels unbearable, because somewhere inside she knows she's not just rebuilding for the sake of survival. She's rebuilding to become someone more aligned with who she's meant to be. Purpose isn't always grand. It might not look like starting a business or leading a movement, although it can. Sometimes purpose is just knowing that you're meant for something more than where you are right now. It's choosing to grow, to heal, to keep going, because your future deserves a version of you who didn't give up. It's the quiet decision to not let the story end in the middle of the storm. And the beautiful thing is, when pain meets purpose, something extraordinary happens. The woman who once felt broken starts to feel powerful. Not because her circumstances changed overnight, but because she changed. She stopped letting the pain steer her and instead let it fuel her. She used it as a foundation to build something new, something meaningful. When you see a woman who has rebuilt herself alone, know this: she's not driven by revenge or bitterness. She's not trying to prove anyone wrong. She's guided by purpose. She's walking forward, not because it's easy, but because something in her says, this matters, I matter, my future matters. And once you've tasted that kind of clarity, the kind that comes not from outside approval, but from inner alignment, there is no going back. That's when pain stops being the loudest voice in the room. That's when purpose takes over. We all go through moments that shake us to the core. A betrayal, a failure, a loss so deep it leaves you questioning everything. When these moments come, it's easy to believe that we are now defined by them, that we are broken beyond repair, that who we used to be no longer exists, and that the future holds little hope. But the truth is, it's not what breaks you that defines your life. It's how you choose to respond to the breaking that sets the course for who you become. The strong woman who rebuilds herself alone understands this, even if she doesn't realize it at first. When everything falls apart, she's left standing in the debris, looking around at what's been lost. But instead of staying in that place, instead of letting the pain write her story, she chooses to pick up the pieces. Not all at once, and not without struggle, but intentionally, deliberately, day by day. You see, the world is full of people who have been through something hard. What separates those who grow from it from those who stay stuck in it isn't the size of the pain, it's the response to it. Some people stay trapped in the identity of what hurt them. Others say, this happened to me, but it will not become all of me. And that mindset changes everything. Response is where power lives. We don't get to control what happens to us, not always. Life will come at you with things you never saw coming. But what we do control is our next step. We control what meaning we assign to what happened. We control whether we let it close us or open us, break us or build us. And that choice, though it can be painful and slow, is what turns survivors into warriors. For the woman who's been through hell and still chooses to love again, try again, believe again, that's not weakness. That's power. That's someone who said, yes, I've been broken, but I am not just what broke me. I am also what I've chosen to become in the aftermath. That's a woman who's rewriting the narrative with every step forward. She may still carry the scars and she may still hear the echoes of past pain, but she's no longer letting them steer the ship. Her life is now defined not by what happened, but by what she decided to do next. That is the ultimate form of strength, the ability to own your story, even the painful chapters, and still move forward with grace and purpose. What broke you may always be part of your story, but it never has to be the headline. You get to choose what defines you, the pain or the progress, the collapse or the comeback. And the strong woman, she chooses the comeback every single time. There's a quiet kind of resilience that rarely gets the recognition it deserves. It doesn't shout, it doesn't demand attention. It's the type of strength that operates in the background, unnoticed by most, but absolutely unshakable. This is the strength of the woman who rebuilds herself alone. The one who doesn't post about her battles, who doesn't make her pain a spectacle, who simply does the work to heal, to rise, and to grow, even when no one is watching. That quiet resilience is a superpower, and it's one of the most powerful forces a person can possess. The world tends to celebrate the loud victories, the big announcements, the dramatic transformations, the high-impact comebacks, but the truth is, most real healing, most real progress happens in the unseen moments. It's in the small decisions, getting out of bed when your heart is heavy, choosing not to go back to something that hurt you, finding hope on a day that feels hopeless, but take the most courage. Quiet resilience isn't about pretending everything's okay. It's about acknowledging that things aren't and showing up anyway. It's in choosing to keep going even when you don't have a clear vision of what's next. It's in trusting that the storm will pass even when the sky is still dark. This type of strength doesn't come from being untouched by pain. It comes from being touched deeply by it and refusing to let it keep you down. What makes quiet resilience a superpower is its sustainability. Loud strength can burn out. It often relies on external validation or temporary motivation. But quiet strength, it's rooted, it's deep. It doesn't need to be seen to be real. It's the kind of strength that builds slowly, like the steady dripping of water that wears down stone. Day by day, it creates transformation that lasts. The woman who rebuilds herself in silence is shaping a foundation that no one can shake. She's not waiting for someone to rescue her or for the perfect timing or for the ideal support system. She becomes her own rescue. She learns to hold herself through the difficult moments and celebrate herself in the wins, no matter how small they seem to others. There's a calm confidence that grows from this kind of resilience, a groundedness, a self-trust that says, I've been through worse and I made it. That mindset turns her pain into wisdom, her setbacks into strategies, her scars into stories of triumph. And the beautiful thing is, she doesn't need to prove it to anyone. She's simply becoming. So don't underestimate the woman who seems quiet, who keeps to herself, who's doing the hard work behind closed doors. That quiet strength, it's a storm in stillness, a fire wrapped in calm, a force that doesn't need to shout to be powerful. Because quiet resilience isn't the absence of struggle, it's the choice to keep rising in the middle of it. And that is nothing short of extraordinary.